G'day Stuff readers and viewers, Lloyd Burr here, and I'm with our dream team of Stuff reporters, Glenn McConnell and Bridie Whitten, and we've spent the last couple of hours going through the budget, piles and piles of documents, so you don't have to. So what's in it? Glenn, what's your top two takeaways?
Well, the big one is pay equity changes. Finally, we've got the number for how much has been cut from the government's books thanks to the pay equity changes. 12.8 billion over 4 years, about 3 billion each year saved by getting rid of these, scaling back the ability for female-dominated workforces to make pay equity claims. That is massive, massive money.
Were you surprised at the size of that figure, 3.2 billion every year?
Well, it absolutely got rid of any claim that this wasn't Brooke Van Velden who pushed through these urgent changes before the budget, saving the budget. David Seymour said she'd saved the budget, and that she has done. Without this money, the government could not have made the budget balance.
When you opened that, what was your first thought, Bridie, when you saw that figure?
Thought that was a staggering amount of money. That is a huge amount of money, and you can see it reflected throughout the budget and in the money they're able to put into things like defence.
Yeah. Okay, so pay equity, your first takeaway, what's your takeaway?
Well, maybe to counter that, something more positive in the budget. Businesses are arguably the biggest winners from today, big and small. All businesses will be able to basically getting a tax bonus. So Nicola Willis wants businesses to go out there and invest in themselves, go buy new tractors, new utes, and those machinery you can get, or anything really, you can get a 20% basically rebate, tax-free on your purchase. So if you buy a $200,000 tractor, you can get 20% back cash-free on that against your taxable income that year. So that she's hoping that will have a big boost to the economy, and it's supposed to cost the government about $1.7 billion per year. Yeah. So that's another big ticket item.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of people who take the mickey out of this, right? There's going to be farmers and stuff going down to boat shows, putting that against their company, writing off 20% against the cost of that straight away, and then there's depreciation of 10.5 on top of that. So they're going to be making lots of money in their tax rebate.
Yeah, well, they want to call it the growth budget, right? And to do that, they had to have something to say, hey, we're going to help businesses. We are quite explicitly helping businesses potentially at the expense of other workers. And I think that is what this budget is doing, because when we look at the Kiwi Saver changes, those are workers now are going to get paid less from the government when they save money. It's going down from $520 per year to $260. Oh, that is a big saving for the government, but it is something that people will notice when they check their Kiwi Saver.
This is a huge pet peeve for me, because I make sure I put in $1,043 every single year. This is when I was a contractor, so I could get that $521. And now, if I put in that same amount, I'm getting half that. I mean, what's the point? They should have just got rid of the whole policy.
Well, I guess the good thing, perhaps, with that policy, though, is they have increased the employer and government matching contribution to 4%, so that will be increased, staggered. And that will, over a lifetime, when you go to buy your first house, or, when you're 65, you will notice that your Kiwi Saver budget is substantially bigger than it would be now. So there is a bit of a longer term payoff for people there if they just hold on and keep saving. But yeah, it does seem like, it could be interpreted negatively in the first instance.
But just on that policy, the Kiwi Saver government contributions mean tested now. It's means tested.
Yeah, if you're getting over 180k, you don't get it. Probably a good thing, right? And this is something the government's doing across all its policies. It's saying means tested. Only if you need it will the government give you the money. We see that with Best Start payment now. If you've got a 1-year-old, previously everyone would have got a payment there. Now only if you're earning under $100,000 a year.
I mean, means testing those two, but they're not means testing private schools. They're actually giving subsidies to private schools by saying, well, actually, all the people who go to private schools, their parents pay lots of tax, they may as well get some subsidies. So they've got is it $20 million or something, $17 million over 4 years?
15.7.
I'm glad you're here. So that's going to private schools, even though they might not want it. What's another thing that you've picked up?
The other thing, national budget here does have a little bit of what could be interpreted as a bit of beneficiary bashing. So this is quite I was really surprised by this. The government's now going to means test the parents of 18 and 19-year-olds that want to get on the job seeker or an emergency benefit. They haven't worked out the details, and this won't kick in until 2027. So Cabinet's still got to sign those off, but it does seem quite remarkable. So Nicola Willis was asked, will parents like this? And she asserted they will, and that she's actually heard from parents who have said, I'm desperate to get my son off the couch who won't work. And she's hopeful that this policy will, be the push to get them into a job or into study. But it seems like it just on the face of it, it'll have a few fishhooks in it. seems like will be quite unpopular. But this is all part of Louise Upston's logic of we've got to get young people off benefits, and that the longer they spend on benefits, the longer they'll be on benefits for their lifetime. So
This is something that plays really well to the National Party base, isn't it? Something like this, because the voters will look at this and they would never have been on the dole in their life, and they'll go, absolutely, why should we pay for them to be on there? Their parents are rich, they shouldn't be on the benefit.
Yeah, it's kind of remarkable because the details weren't worked out and this isn't kicking in for a while. So why was it in budget 2025? And also that Nicola Willis came with this story to say, oh, she's been talking to parents who are saying, please give me something to get my kid off the couch. They're playing PlayStation too much on the government's dime. It would be very interesting if over the next few days we'll be able to meet some of those parents, if they exist, and talk to them for stuff.
If they exist.
And the caveat for that as well was you're single, so you can get out of this if you are married or civil union or de facto. So
Okay, interesting. We have to name the budget. I've called it, there were a few options. I was going to call it the backhanded budget because that's what it sort of essentially is with the pay equity changes that they've done to save that $12.8 billion over those 4 years. I was going to call it the bitter budget for the same reason, but I've kind of landed on the bitsy budget because it is just bitsy. There's not really anything beefy in there that you can kind of get your teeth into. It's sort of a bit bitsy. Do you have a name for it?
Why hasn't Nicola Willis come out and said this is the business budget? This is back to business. This is investing almost only new money is going into business at the moment. This will be very good if you run your own business.
Yeah, or you want a new boat budget. Maybe that's what it would be, a new boat. What about you? Have you got a name for this?
I think Bitsy is pretty apt. There were there's more than 30 announcements, sort of individual announcements the government wanted to draw attention to in its package, which is a bit more than we usually get in this sort of budget bundle. 33 this year, so it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot they're trying to draw attention to, and of course that's across the coalition, so everyone wants to be able to say, David Seymour wants to come out and say, I've done this, and NZ First wants to say, I've done that, so yeah, bit of a lolly scramble there, I guess, of initiatives across the government.
And just overall, in terms of the government's books, they're still in the red. The operating balance is over $10 billion in the red, and it's going to take a few years to get out of it, and their overall crown debt is $186 billion, I think, off the top of my head. Big figures.
We're going into more debt in the year ahead as well. So all the talk of debt management, that is going to kick in the longer term. We're on track still, only just, to reach surplus in 2029 of 200 million. That, isn't much.
Yeah, heck yeah. And just one last thing, Glenn, you mentioned the Best Start payment, how they're means testing it. At the moment, for the first year, it's universal $73 every single week for everyone for the first year of your kid's life. They're making that means tested. Our reporter, Jenna Lynch, who's on maternity leave at the moment, she says if the government means tested that policy, she would do a live cross from the hospital bed where she, after she's just given birth. So this means she has to do a live cross into the bulletin tonight. Thanks for watching.